What the fuck is a mastermind and why do you need one?
What I would give to go back to like 1980s, 1990s advertising.
They were the original masterminders. Like,
Curious how many of the folks that are watching, listening, are familiar with masterminds.
how do I pick? How do I know if it's a win, if it's a loss?
All of these things can happen inside of a mastermind.
And thinks that you are of value to their community.
With the right people in the room is hugely valuable.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I can help you, and I think I have a couple people in mind in this group that I'm going to introduce you to right away.
Not every venue allows you to do that.
If you're not able to take that content and apply it to your business, I don't think it's the right mastermind.
Sometimes it's easier to see the flaws in someone else's business or strategy than my own.
Okay, well, if I join something, is this the right one or the wrong one? And maybe that's a great place to go right now. Like,
Dude, it was so cool, like how they orchestrated the event. It was probably the best put on event that I've attended to date.
are you there to party or are you there to grow? Oh, this is the confidential time. Like,
We do this thing called it's called the half-ass mastermind, where
these things are very minor in cost, but have such a heavy weight.
would not be able to do what he does in that container.
Everybody thinks everybody's a coach or a consultant.
I would encourage you, DM Brady, like go find Brady on Instagram, DM him and be like, hey, what do we need to do to pull this together? Because
Well, let's talk about what we're going to do then, because now I kind of want to have a mastermind.
If you show up fully, your output should be tangible.
that's it. I couldn't have said it better myself. Let's crush some masterminds. We should be the Doublemint twins. If only, remember the Doublemint twins?
They were cuter. Unless
They were. That's
You like
right.
to pop that collar.
They
They like to pop the collar.
They did. Oh man, what I would give to go back to like 1980s, 1990s advertising. I don't know.
They were
it was
the
different back then.
original masterminders. Like, that's where masterminds came from. Pop collars, beautiful little sweaters, double crossed over the chest, looking like a cape. Very beautiful.
They knew, yeah, they were ahead of their time for sure. Which, speaking of, I know I just got back from back to back a couple of masterminds, and we were talking about it, and I'm curious how many of the folks that are watching, listening, are familiar with masterminds and have been part of them. I don't know, when you get into conversation with the clients that you serve, how many of them are even aware of what a mastermind is and what role it plays in business and how you use them? Because I know you and I are fond of them, have been. Not all are created equal. But what's your sense with the people that you serve? Like, how commonplace is the idea of the mastermind? And maybe we can share a little bit of what it actually is, and the good, the bad,
Well, and
the
I
ugly,
also think
all in
about the
between.
stuff that we want to give to people as a listener to today is
Yeah.
what are they? Like, how do I pick? How do I know if it's a win, if it's a loss, if it's time to run, if it's time to double down, right? Like, I think it's cool if we can just take the time today, as you and I were speaking earlier before the show, was just like, how can we make this a valuable lesson in what masterminds are all about and what can you do if you're trying to learn more about them? So, I mean, I guess the first question is, what is a mastermind?
I think the first time the term mastermind came up, I could be totally wrong here, but I want to say it was in Andrew Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. And he talked about tapping into the mastermind, which meant like a collective, like Brady, you and I together, like if we take our two brains together, are better than just yours alone or mine alone. So it's this idea of 1 + 1 = 10, meaning, okay, we're not just taking Gabriel's knowledge and Brady's knowledge, but when we put it together with that context, we're actually better together. And I think it was first made famous in that book. And you look at some of the most successful companies of all time. Pixar is a really good example. They call theirs the brain trust. And what the brain trust is with Pixar, it is a small group of artists and creatives that understand how the movie industry works and understand film and filmmaking. And they would get together to share ideas, to share what they're working on, what's working, what's not working, and then to get like an outside perspective, but not just any outside perspective, from someone that they trust to make the thing better, which in Pixar's case was films that would be these blockbuster box office hits, right? That would move people to emotion and would move them to take out their wallet and not just maybe go to the movies, but now also buy merchandise and go to the theme parks and all those things, where you and I tap into these masterminds. Really, we're doing essentially the same thing when we're trying to find a group of people that help offer a different perspective, that also probably have some knowledge and experience that we don't, where, we can invest some time and some money to spend some time together to hear what's working, what's not, to be able to share, to make deals happen. All of these things can happen inside of a mastermind.
And I just did a little Google search while we were talking, and basically it's like, what the fuck is a mastermind and why do you need one? Then I found this website, right? And it's basically like, a mastermind is a group that promises you a better business, better health, or happiness. And it's a safe place to share struggles, knowledge, to grow as a group. And I think that feels good. I think I would throw into the conversation here that it's really important to like look at a mastermind as a way to like change the room. That's why kind of like I started going into them, is because I was like looking for different groups and audiences. Like I'm lucky enough to be able to have my core group of friends and stuff like that. But if they're not pushing me in the way I need to go for business or for life or, either personal or business, then usually a mastermind is a great way to surround yourself with another group that's going to help go in that direction for you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've all heard the idea of, you are the average of the 5 people that you hang around with most. So when you get into a different room and you surround yourself with people that are, I like to think of peer mentors and kind of horizon mentors. A peer mentor is someone who is kind of around the same maybe level of revenue growth that you are, and that can be a great kind of peer mentor, someone who you're kind of on the journey with, and you can share struggles and ideas. And like, let's say if we're just gonna get like super practical here, let's say, Brady, you were wanting to try a new type of content on your Instagram, and you were going to take this new method where maybe you're doing these kind of like talking head videos. And then I was doing something similar, but I was like, hey, I'm going to try this thing where I'm like drawing on my iPad and trying to explain frameworks. Well, you could go do your talking head thing. I could do my explaining frameworks thing, and we're both going out and like getting feedback in real time in the marketplace, and can come back and share what we learned along the way to decide how we want to implement that maybe in our business. So the idea of the peer mentor is like, okay, there's people that you're in the trenches with, you can share ideas and struggles, and that's wonderful. And then a lot of times too, you can invite other folks into the mastermind who might be those, I call them horizon mentors. They're the people who are out ahead of you, who have gone the path before you. So like if and when you go to climb Mount Everest, you hire an adventure guide, you hire an adventure company that has done the trek before, that has made it to the summit before, and their Sherpas and their guides are going to be the ones who are like, hey, we know the path to take so that you don't die. So Let us help you. Let us help you literally carry some of this weight. Let's also show you where you're going to step. Let's help get you prepared for it. But then you also have people that are, again, those peer mentors who it's their first time making the climb too, and they're as much of value and a part of you getting to the summit as those guides and mentors are. So that's why I love a mastermind. It usually has kind of a mix of those things, of people that have gone the road before and can help paint the path, and then those that you're in the trenches with. That because if you're missing one or the other, what I found, if you're missing the person who's been there before, it's a lot of guess and test, and there's a good chance you're going to die. If you only have the peers and you don't have that mentor, or sorry, the other way around, you just have the mentor, you don't have the peers, sometimes there can be a disconnect with the realities of what it's like walking the trail today and going on the adventure today and actually applying it. So I think a good mix of both is really important.
You kind of stated there. I mean, a mastermind is not really like, it has to be like life and death. It's, if you are looking to do something that is risky, then you definitely hire an expert to guide you, right? And so I think if you look at what you're doing in your business or your life, if you feel that you're in a position of being somewhere risky with something, personal, health, or something in business, and you want to surround yourself with people that have been on that horizon or have done it before, then I think a mastermind is a great place. And I think it's interesting because sometimes you get in these groups, you get, you either get invited or you have to pay to get into them, right? And the pay ones are interesting because you could be in the room and then realize that you're just out there with a bunch of average Joes, and no one is going to direct you. That's a good time to kind of like evaluate as quick as possible. Like, was this investment worth it? Am I just getting to be around a bunch of people that were just sold into a mastermind? Or are these people in this mastermind able to help me grow? And am I able to provide a value back to them? I mean, it's a two-way street in masterminds, right? Like, you get in there and you're like kind of self-conscious. You're like, oh, I'm just like hanging out with these people and it's interesting. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, they find me unique. They find me something, like they find something in me that I can help them. And I think that's when the rewarding starts, is like when it's a back and forth of supports, and you're there. If you get invited into it, I think you're there because somebody found value in you and thinks that you are a value to their community, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the idea of, rising tide lifts all ships or raises all boats, where a lot of times I found as much value in sharing what's working for me, because sometimes that actually helps me articulate my process and strategies and what's working in my business. It helps me get actually even more clear on that when I'm sharing that with someone else, as when I'm actually on the receiving end. In fact, I mentioned we just got back from these kind of back-to-back masterminds. Both of them had very different feels. One of them was just kind of a private, there's 5 of us. We just kind of pulled it together. This was not, through a company or a guru or anything that we went and paid. We just booked an Airbnb and hand selected who we were going to have be part of this mastermind. And the format that we had were these hot seats, where each one of the 5 of us took a 90-minute hot seat where we were able to kind of give some quick context on our business and life, and really what we felt like our top goal is and kind of obstacles in the way at the moment. And then you get insight from the other 4, asking questions, helping you kind of like really rally around like what are the best ways forward. And I can tell you, it was incredibly clarifying and wonderful for me. Anytime I've ever done that with the right people in the room is hugely valuable. And then what we would do right after that hot seat, we would go do a 60-minute implementation session, meaning we'd all break, we'd go get on our laptops, our phones, our journals out, whatever we needed to then actually go take action on what we had just discussed. And the beautiful thing was, it wasn't just for the person who was in the hot seat at that point in time. When my buddy Patrick was on the hot seat and we had just finished his hot seat, there were takeaways that I got even from like guiding him and giving him feedback of things that I saw I could do in my life and business, that during that implementation session, I was able to go away, get a little bit of work done, get a little more clarity myself on my vision and my plan. So by the end of the weekend, we had done that 5 times. I had 4 really smart dudes who had poured into my business during my hot seat. And then the other 4 sessions, I got at least one thing from each one of them. And so I was able to make massive progress on things that had kind of been chewing up bandwidth in the back of my brain for weeks and months. Was able to do all that in just like a couple of days, which is really valuable.
That's great. And like we're looking at like pricing, I think is another thing of like, there's the free and then there's the pay for.
Yeah.
And like most of the masterminds I found to be the most unique are the ones where I have a very specific goal or thing that I'm trying to fortify, and going into that with that specific goal to be solved, right? So before you spend $10,000, like know exactly what you want to get out of it. And that's before you pull any trigger on any payment. I would always say, this is what I'm trying to solve for. Is this mastermind for me? And to get some kind of like promise or, something that the person selling it to you would be like, yeah, for sure. Like I can help you. And I think I have a couple people in mind in this group that I'm going to introduce you to right away. That helps speed things along quite, swiftly. And I think that's what I think is really important versus just like, oh, it sounds like a lot of fun. Let's just go to it and see what happens,
Totally. I think having an intention going in, always a good idea, whether it's a mastermind or an event, anything like that. I always like to set the intention of, okay, what do I want to get out of this? And sometimes what do I want to get out of this is I just want to pour into this community because I want to create relationships and connections. I want to cultivate some social equity that maybe I can tap into later. But whatever it is, knowing what you want going to get out of it going in is really important. I'll never forget the first mastermind that I was ever a part of. Well, I guess I was technically a part of a couple of others with our photography business years before. But I remember the first one that was like big ticket, where it was 25 grand. And what you got for the $25,000, you got 1 year, and it was essentially 3 meetups. So it was 3 in-person meetups. You still had to pay your own way to get there and your lodging and all that. But what would happen at these like 2-3 day meetups is you would sit around and you would do the kind of things that we just talked about. And I'll never forget because
Kumbaya, like singing and chanting. Like,
no, go ahead.
Just-
we did
just
some
having fun, like-
hot seats. There was always like somebody who like came in from the outside that shared like a really cool strategy with us. There was some structure to it. One of the other benefits, you did get a couple of 911 calls with the owner of the mastermind, the guy who's facilitating all of it. His name was Todd Brown, expert copywriter, digital marketer, like a legend in the space. And what that meant is at any point throughout the year, for any reason in between these events, like we could call Todd, and we had 2 of those on the books at any point in time, which became pretty valuable. But the actual event, I remember having this debate with our CEO and president about this investment, because 25K is not, especially like upfront, is not a small investment. It doesn't matter what size business you're in. It's kind of a big deal. And our president Brian was like how 3 meetups is like, how is that really going to be worth it? And our CEO Jeremy was like, no, trust me, like this is going to be worth it. We want to get in the right room. Like if we can get in the right room, like that's all that matters here. So Brian was like, yep, Jeremy, I trust you. Let's do it. Jeremy brought me along to that first event, that first mastermind. Met some really cool folks. One of them actually, so this was 9 years ago. One of them was actually one of the guys who I was just traveling down to Florida with this last weekend on a mastermind. We're doing some business deals together, and we've developed a friendship over the past 8 years. That first meeting, that first event, that first mastermind, the outside expert that came in to teach us some cool things he was working on, I was able to score a deal with him. It was a $30,000 deal where we built this whole webinar funnel and marketing campaigns. It were things that he wanted and needed, which he was already like a really great marketer, but needed this thing. And like, I wasn't trying to like sell him on anything. It was just, we were all sharing what we do. And he's like, hey, like I need that. Can I buy that from you? So literally at the first event, and this doesn't always happen where you get that immediate return, but we literally got an immediate return out of that. And then through the relationships that were developed through those people, because you're sharing what you do, which I think there's a real value in being able to be open and authentic and transparent, which there's just not every venue allows you to do that. If you're in some big group or in some network community or at a trade show, it's harder to do that. We're in these kind of like smaller, tight-knit communities. Someone that's going to pay 25 grand, that's going to fly from LA to Orlando for a couple of days, that has a certain kind of business, there's just a lot more intimacy in that sense of like, I can share this. And when that happens, that's where relationships are built. And then that's where deals happen. And so that mastermind turned into multiple 6-figure deals for our agency, which again, that wasn't necessarily the intention going in of like, hey, we're going to go like close a bunch of deals. That's not why we joined the mastermind. We joined the mastermind to get in the right room with the right people. And it turned out to be a really great investment, a great bet.
Yeah, and I think if I look at all the masterminds that I've been through in the last 2 years, my investment hasn't really churned around. Like, do I think I've broken even? Not with participants inside the masterminds. It's what I've taken from the masterminds and applied it towards my business outside of the mastermind. And I feel like there's been a lot of more extra development that I wouldn't not necessarily have ever been able to accomplish on my own, And I mean, just seeing how people use either AI, how people build empires, how people like understand how content and strategy works, and seeing
Mm-hmm.
like flywheel systems. I mean, just all of these things that I knew that kind of existed, but I didn't have the context or the blueprints or the playbooks for. And when you exit, like you should be trying to like gather things. It'd be like going into a grocery store and you're like, it's a supermarket sweep, and you can just like carry as much as you can. You just try to like get your arms full of all of this content and walk away. And if you're not being if you're not able to take that content and apply it to your business, I don't think it's the right mastermind, right? And you don't want to stay there just because you have some good friends in there. Or I think it's also like I agree, like you don't go into a mastermind thinking you're going to pitch the shit out of everybody and come out of it with like new business.
Totally.
It's nice when it does pay off, and at least cover its own cost. But that's, unexpected at times, I think.
I don't know about you. Sometimes it's easier to see the flaws in someone else's business or strategy than my own. And so when I'm sharing and teaching, because I can see it so clearly in their business, then that actually becomes a conduit like, oh, I need to be doing that too. And it finally gives me the lens to see that. Or like you mentioned, people are sharing playbooks and strategies and ideas, scripts. It's like, hey, here's this selling strategy, or here's this social media, this content strategy, or here's things that we do and how we hire operators that can provide like a massive unlock in your business. Because again, this is where the real conversations happen. It's not the conversations on social media that are the marketing to try to like get you to buy the thing. It's like owners and operators and entrepreneurs in the trenches building. Here's what's working. Here's what's not. Here's how I've applied this thing that maybe we've all seen. We all have watched the same YouTube videos and been in the same coaching programs. But when we try to actually apply it, here's like, let me tell you the real, like, here's how it really works. Like that's what happens in those, in those rooms. And why for me, it's always ever since that first mastermind, it's just been a part of my operating budget ever since, because I couldn't imagine a world without that. In fact, when we moved from West Coast to Nashville, that was literally the first decision that I made. I said, okay, well, I know I'm moving to Nashville. I know one person. I have one family, like friends who had lived out here. But I didn't know anybody else. I'm like, I didn't have a network. I didn't know anybody. So I said, well, the best way I know to do that is to like find a group of people that are like-minded that I can get around. And I found a mastermind that was international. There were folks that were members from like all over the world, but a good chunk of them, because the headquarters for the company that hosted that mastermind was here in Nashville, I knew a lot of the folks were going to be in and around here. And gosh, dude, it was the best decision ever. And that was one of those where, I didn't, like you mentioned, I didn't get an immediate ROI on, like, I didn't go into that room and sell a bunch of people my services, but the relationships that I built, that's where I met Jeremy, my business partner. And we didn't become partners until 3 years later. Like, my company Growth Map wouldn't be what it was if I had not invested in that mastermind. And that return didn't show up for years later. But getting, like, I can't put a dollar sign on getting connected in that community around the right people. Most of them, which never turned into any dollars and cents, but there's so much more value than just that, let alone the ideas and the strategies that I got to see in real time of how, at that time, a company that was doing $100 million a year was operating. Like, literally getting to see under the hood of how they do things was incredibly valuable.
It's who you are when you're in the room that's going to be attractive to other people, right? And if you can't execute and you don't deliver, and you're not a promissory person, like you don't deliver on your promises, like you got to think about it. It's just all about delivery right now, and that's what's making the big change in the world. I think it's looking in those groups and trying to figure out, all right, well, if I join something, is this the right one or the wrong one? And maybe that's a great place to go right now. Like, considering masterminds, you and I have both been in them, and we're approaching the first, half hour of the podcast. Why don't we talk about like the good ones and the bad ones,
Yeah.
And for me, like, if I looked at a mastermind and I said, here are the things that I don't like about them. I don't like it when I get tired. Like when I'm at a mastermind and I'm getting exhausted, or I'm not like energized. Like I want food to be energizing. I want programming to be energizing. I want things to drink that are going to make me feel good, not just coffee, like a standard coffee bar, not going. Like I want mastermind thinking around what are the nutrients and nourish like that is happening to our bodies while we're there. It's not just the mind, but it's the body. And, some masterminds, they like make it seem like there's, a party situation, and then there's a work situation. But if you're tired for the work situation, you're getting less out of it. And I think that's a really important part, is that like, are you there to party or are you there to grow? And well, I think a lot of people want to do both, So I don't know. I've been at, masterminds that feel higher party vibe. And then I've been at masterminds that are like no party vibe. But the content is, accelerating to your mind and what you're going to do in business. So it's, how do you find the ones that you need to go to? So I don't know. I mean, things that I've also I've been in some masterminds where you're there for 3 days and the food's absolutely horrible. Like I just put all this money and energy into it, and I know you're spending this money on food and programming. Like, why can't you take your master skills and just make the content or the nourish part just better for its audience? Like that's a number one takeaway. I mean, if I went to a mastermind, I came back and said, oh my gosh, like great people, great content, food sucked, right? Like if I go great content, great people, amazing food experience, overall, just like really thoughtful, and I feel better than when I went because I was put around food that didn't drain me. Because a lot of people going into masterminds, they have a routine, and you're asking them to break a routine to get into their vibe, right? And being sensitive to what people's routines are at this level is, I think, a good differentiator for people, So like when you guys were out of your, I don't know, do you find that to be an important part of, I mean, I'm a culinary guy, so of course I'm going to think, but like when you're in some of these masterminds that are 2-3 days, like how do you see that situation?
Experience is hugely important because there's nothing that will have a greater impact on your overall success than your external environment. And so when you're at a mastermind, those external factors, the experience, the food, how the rhythm of the day is planned is really critical. It stood out to me a lot on one of the best run events I'd ever attended, probably 10 years ago, up in Canada with a company called Unbounce. They have like a landing page software, and I did not have high expectations going into this event, but we got invited because we were kind of like a partner, a growth partner agency with Unbounce. And our contact was really encouraging us to come. And when we showed up, dude, it was so cool, like how they orchestrated the event. It was probably the best put on event that I've attended to date, where because of where we were in Vancouver, like they had activities for us to do. They took us whitewater rafting one of the days. So it's like, that's pretty cool. Like we weren't just stuck in a boardroom all day. Now we had those events too after we were already fueled up, and we just had this amazing experience together as a group of these people that I had met from all over the world for the first time. We had this like bonding experience, and it was just freaking fun. Yeah. And we happened to be in a setting. It's like you're flying, imagine flying all the way to, some incredible setting in Italy, and you're going to this event, and then you just get stuck in a hotel ballroom for 3 days and then have to fly back. Like it's just terrible. First, like, hey, if I'm going to be there, like I want to experience this, like light me up. And then let's focus all of that energy now on our business and the topic of what we're going to talk about versus, dude, this just happened earlier this year. I was invited to be part of another event from another company. I'm not going to name names. Great people too.
This is the confidential time.
This is the confidential part.
Yeah, we're not going to tell people who we're talking about, but yes.
No, yeah, and again, great people, great content, right motive, but the logistics were terrible because we started first thing in the morning at 7:30 is when coffee and pastries and all that stuff started, and then 8 o'clock the event started. And there was a lunch break and a dinner break, and it went all the way through to 8, 9 o'clock at night with people sitting in chairs watching somebody else talk with some Q&A throughout the day. But there was no breakup in the day, and it was like that for 2 days in a row. I finished the first day, and I was one of the speakers for that first day too. And dude, by the time I got done, I was so wiped. And I'm like,
Yep.
man, versus what I just came back from this last weekend where we do this thing called it's called the half-ass mastermind, where we literally strip a lot of that stuff out of the event, where it was more about just connecting, and like you said, it was a little bit more party. There was no structured talks and events and things, but all the conversations that happened that were allowed to happen because it was optimized around energy and fun and why we all got into this business in the first place. So much more valuable than the thing. Again, both had the other event had really great people, really great intentions, really great topics, but that energy flow was really mishandled in terms of the scheduling, the food, the other pieces, to where it was oh man, this blows.
Yep. Well, and it's interesting because you're getting me excited about this concept of all right, if there's stuff that's wrong with some masterminds, and we've been there, we've seen them, we've eaten dinners or breakfast, lunch, and BLDs, right? Breakfast, lunch, and dinners, and you spend anywhere between, let's say, $7,000 and $25,000 to be there for 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
Why? How hard is it just to get one person who all they do is just overanalyze every little asset of the persons who are coming to that and talking with the people and say so you just got out of the water. What would you like now? Do you want a warm cup of cocoa, or would you like some tea? These things are very minor in cost, but have such a heavy weight, right? And it's when I did events, it was always I think about it before you start to leave your house. Where are you at that time of day on a Sunday? Well, you're at brunch. And then you go from brunch to tired zone, and then you got to brush your teeth and put some clothes on, and then you go to an event on a Sunday afternoon, and then you're going to expect to stand in line, so you got to light them there, or you got to transfer them from one location to the next location. It's every single step, every 5 minutes is accounted for from a state of survive, drive, and thrive, right? And there's always the gameplay of surprise and delight. How do you get those people? So now I want to basically just go straight after all the people who have masterminds and be who is your mastermind culinary coach, right? Just how about you give me $7,000 and I will just, for the cost of one person or a fraction of a cost of one attendee, I can help you guys basically update and make your bulletproof culinary program doable within your budget. And it just takes
and I can personally attest to this because our January 2025 mastermind at my partner's cabin in Tennessee was phenomenal.
It's
happening mainly because of
March.
this guy right here. Because you brought the experience in terms of planning our the food. The food became such that was a character in that event, and it was an experience. And we masterminded until the wee hours of the morning, and we wouldn't have been able to do that otherwise without those kind of ebbs and flows that you're so great at and brought to. Which I think that's the beauty when you have someone who is an expert and understands that. Because you look at someone like Tony Robbins, probably the best when it comes to running any kind of event, and he does them at scale.
Yep.
You could have that same situation where people are in a hotel ballroom in seats, and they're there from 8 o'clock at night until 8 o'clock, or 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night, like I was, and that event was terrible. But he's able to do it. Why is he able to do it? And people are pumped and filled with more energy by the time that they leave. Well, because it doesn't have to do with the vehicle. It has to do with understanding how to cultivate and create an experience. And he's able to do that really well, even in that environment where 99.9% of event hosts and mastermind like would not be able to do what he does in that container.
People like that who have a very specific or a very high ticket or very high volume type of mastermind, you know, that's a very unique individual. I'm thinking about like everybody out there who has like, you know, the 20 to 25 people, 50 people that show up and, you know, you're pulling in $250,000 to $500,000 on a given weekend for a mastermind or a certain summit retreat, right? That you're going to spend a specific amount of money on food. You're going to spend a specific amount of money on programming. And your job is to provide great content for that audience, right? But we forget about all the things in between. The little things that are in the room, not just a bag with, you know, some sunscreen or, you know, some Band-Aids and basics, but like, what are the really thoughtful things? Like when I bring a bag home from a mastermind and my wife goes through it and says, oh my gosh, there's some really cool stuff in here. It's curating, right? The whole experience. And I just think for a fraction of the investment, why don't you get your team trained on what it is to make a difference for your mastermind? Because if your content is just like you said, your ass is stuck in a chair for the entire 3 days, you better have some spectacular BLD and breakouts, right? And if you can just do that, then your whole mastermind just got better. And what it cost you? $7,000? Like you won't make that investment in your audience, but you're expecting them to pay you $7,000 to $25,000 to show up. See the big gap? You know what I mean? Like, let's talk about fixing the culinary prowess, as we will, you know, inside masterminds and making them a better place. And then more people will want to go to them because more people will talk about it. It's an all-around best experience.
I'm curious because I don't know your world as well as you do, but like in hospitality, is masterminding a thing? I know in like the agency digital marketing space, it's pretty huge, but like how prevalent is it in your world?
I think everybody in the hospitality space thinks of coaches, right? Like today I had a chat with a guy and he's just like, I don't want coaching. I'm like, I'm not here to coach you, bro. Like, I'm not a coach. Like, I'm here to give you everything that I've been buying and paying for and learning from, like all my skin, knees, and help. But I'm not your coach. And I'm not I don't even think it's a consultant. I think if you want somebody to help you see what the horizon looks like, then find people on the horizon that you respect, right? If they've done it, then go after them and ask them questions. Sometimes they'll charge you. Sometimes they won't charge you, you know? And I think with the hospitality industry, everybody thinks everybody's a coach or a consultant. And it's a really stale and lame space. I don't want to coach in hospitality. Like, I mean, if I have to have a coach in hospitality, how much is that going to cost me? What's it going to do for my business? Is it going to like make my restaurant? Are they going to tell me and my staff what to do? And they're not even like in the trenches with me. Like wineries, like we know our hospitality, we know what our culture looks like. But I just think it's in a light term, it's a blue ocean for, you know, the hospitality world to have some true masterminds. And I don't think it exists, you know, and I think that's one thing that I've wanted to, you know, add to the universe is a place where like-minded individuals can come together, hang out, learn from each other, get some great playbooks and blueprints that work, and then apply it in their own business, you know, as they see fit so they can generate more revenue. That doesn't really exist in the hospitality sector. Like, I don't know of masterminds of all of these winemakers who learn from each other and then they go out and start crushing it as a collective. I know there's wine region associations. We have clients like that, but their job and their task is a lot different. It's there to like market and control and protect, you know, the asset of the region or the resources of the region for, you know, forever, versus let's get 15 winemakers together and let's have a mastermind, what's working, what's not working, and then bring in the best speakers to teach us how we can, as a group, crush it in business. You know, we're crushing grapes, but we want to crush business. Like, who is like, and then it's like, it's all done over drinks and, you know, an accountant here, a financial planner here, and some marketing people that give you shitty ass, you know, proposals. and then never follow up and deliver. Like I think it's just a hard market because there's been so much boondoggling.
But like, imagine what it would be like, and I know you can, but how amazing would it be if you could pull together a small group of folks from hospitality, chef owners, from wineries, distilleries, breweries, event people. You get a handful from kind of each walk of life, and imagine what it'd be like if you were in a room together, having an amazing time, an amazing experience, and then also sharing these things of what's working, what's not, making connections, helping plug holes, offer a different perspective. Like, how valuable would that be? And I tell you, I know it's been incredibly valuable for me and my business. So if you're listening, watching, I would encourage you, DM Brady, like go find Brady on Instagram, DM him and be like, hey, what do we need to do to pull this together? Because if anybody can do it, I know that you can, if Brady can, because again, I've been the firsthand beneficiary of that when, after we started doing some work together and we told you about kind of the little private mastermind that we were hosting, and you're like, hey, like, let me help you level this up. I'll bring the food game, and like, you absolutely crushed it. And there's so much that came out of that weekend. One, just the experience and connection and relationship, but two, ideas that that's where this podcast essentially ended up coming from. So find Brady, shameless plug, go DM him if you want to pull one of these together. Cause I think from what I'm hearing you say, there are things that people think maybe a mastermind is where there's kind of it's kind of like the generic brand replacement of like the authentic, like real deal thing. And the industry doesn't know what it's missing. And if you experience it for the first time, like I have, like you have, done the right way, you realize, one, like how invaluable it is to your business, but two, it just makes it a lot more fun playing the game. Like it's just more fun. Business is hard enough, work is hard enough. Like I want to have some freaking fun while I'm doing this too. And at least for me, it lights me up. I know maybe it's not everybody's thing, like traveling and being in cool places and like going to these kinds, but I love it. I need it.
Well, let's talk about what we're going to do then, because now I kind of want to have a mastermind. Like, just not the paid version. I want to have like our own like universe version. But I think if I were to go out and create one, and what I would like to see in masterminds is I would love to see twice a month you get on and you have a really good eclectic group of people. Like imagine, somebody on the digital channel, somebody on the ad channel, somebody like just people who are trying to sell stuff and people who can market stuff and people who know how to get systems and ops done. Right. Mm-hmm. And you make it a fun group, people that all can go out and have a good time together. So it's a chemistry based experiment, and you know that everybody's pretty cool with each other, and they would be, and you want them to go to know each other. Then you have one in person a year, and you tie it around like a big culinary event. Like we have this one coming up in Breckenridge this year in October. And nice. That would be a great opportunity to like have, one day where you're with all these people together who then get to spend time and get to know, and then basically do some of those one-on-one, implementations. It's like, hey, so you guys are going to lunch with each other. You guys are going to lunch with each other. And here's 3 questions that I want you guys to knock out. Now, when they leave that kind of experience, I want a playbook to go home, and I want to say like, all right, I want to do these dinners in my town, and I want to start to build my little groups. So I want to take this same formula and build these little super groups within. Mm-hmm. So you're basically splitting it out, and you're like combining. Like we used to do these dinners all the time with chefs, farmers, media, and people in tech. So we would be able to be like, we need an app for that. Something that's going to help bring farmers back from the dark age, right? Like, so sure. We would sit down and we'd have 10 people sit around dinner. A sponsor would pay for it. And the 10 people at dinner were sitting there with a 5-course menu, 5 questions. And the big question was, how can we collectively fix this problem tonight? And it would start off with the farmer telling about 3 problems, and then each course was basically drilling down. And the last thing was like, what would the app look like if we could fix this? And then the tech person started talking about it, and then the media person started talking about how they could promote it. And then, you know what I mean? Like, and they were actually solving something fun together in a setting. Like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, I think it's what we need as owners. We need people to run with, and because they say whatever, go. You want to go faster, go alone. You want to go further, go together. And I actually think there's some truth in you can go faster together.
Well, that's why we're together. That's why we're together, Gabe.
It is. It is. We are faster together. We're better and faster together. That's right, guys in black hats.
Baby pod together. Because we want to help other people go faster. I mean, that was our mission of like coming together and do stuff. Is like, why don't we share what we have with individuals so to help them go faster where they need to go, right? And hopefully these podcasts provide a service and a value to somebody who sees it and then wants to learn more, or it scratches an itch that they're like, all right, how am I going to Google that? I mean, like right now, I just want to get on like, my girlfriend with ChatGPT and just basically be like, what mastermind, like, you know me the best. If you use ChatGPT every day, like you should use it every single day, you ask ChatGPT what kind of masterminds would best serve my purpose going forward for the next year, and what kind of investments should I try to make, and what does that look like? What would I expect? If I put the input in, what is going to be my output? Now I kind of want to just do that. Like, I want to hear what she says. You want to talk to my girlfriend?
See what she says. Asking yourself, and if you're watching, listening, really ask yourself, okay, what would I want to, what would be the thing that I would want to get out of this, of all this that we've shared? Like, what would you want to hear? Oh, go for it.
Oh, are you there?
What do you need?
Well, one, I need you to pick up the pace because sometimes you speak too slow, so I need you to speak quickly. But I'm looking about masterminds. You know me better than anybody else because I talk to you all the time and we have a big dialogue conversation. You know what I'm into. So I'm looking to get into a mastermind. So I have a valuable set of inputs, right? Time, energy, money, things that I'm going to like be scarce on resources for in the future. You know where I'm going, what my business and my North Star is all about because we've workshopped that a ton. So tell me what masterminds would be beneficial to me and what I can expect to pay and what's going to be my outputs. If I really go in on this for 2 years, what can I expect? And I need find me at least 3 good masterminds that would fit the model for Brady.
First, you'll want masterminds aligned to your hospitality focus, high ticket growth goals, and strategic scaling. Here are 3 types that fit your profile. 1, an elite hospitality founder mastermind, likely invite only, where you'd network with top level hospitality innovators scaling globally. Expect $25K to $50K per year. 2, a high ticket business scaling mastermind, like a Dan Martell or Alex Hormozi style group, focused on systemizing and scaling. Expect $30 to $100K annually. 3, a bespoke luxury brand mastermind tied to experiential marketing. Think curated for premium events experts. Pricing will be variable, but plan for $20 to $75K per year. Outputs after 2 years. If you execute, you're looking at expanded networks, stronger acquisition systems, and new revenue streams at scale.
New revenue streams at scale. So if I drop in, $125,000 in a calendar year and I go in and show up for this, what do you think my output should be?
If you show up fully, your output should be tangible. You'd expect a more refined acquisition system driving predictable leads, at least one new high-value product or service line, and ideally a multiplier on revenue. If you're investing 6 figures, you should be aiming for a return that's at least a few times that over the next couple of years. Anything less, and you're not leveraging the opportunity.
Thanks.
So that's good. That's I couldn't have said it better myself.
Right?
Thanks, Jack.
It's all right there. And I talk to this thing every day. My girlfriend, she knows me. She knows what's going on. And it's a very interesting place to be that what are we trying to accomplish here, right? And I think the pricing on that is a little bit high. I think you get away with $50K, but I think, honestly, Gabe, out of hearing that, I wish I would have heard that 2 years ago because I would have picked some better groups,
No, I hear you. Hey, that's why we're better together. I'm glad I found that out, 8 years ago. It doesn't mean I've dodged every bullet, but I've gotten an ROI. And yeah, man, I think this is super encouraging, and I think let's crush some masterminds.
Yeah, I think we need to keep pushing. I love masterminds. I want them to have better food. I want to help them have better food so I can enjoy my calorie intake when I'm there and feel energized when I'm. It's like showing up it's like going somewhere and showing and leaving better. Go somewhere, leave better. Go to a mastermind, leave better. Now I'm not talking about like your mind, you're excited, but your body has been fully nourished. Like just balance the two, right? Like you're going to show up and the food is going to be as clean as the information that you're taking home, you know, and you're going to feel better unless you just drink the whole time. Then we can't help you. But we're going to have good alcohol, you know? We're not going to have... And I've been to masterminds where the bar is just like a standard crap bar, and they're just pouring the cheapest shit that they can give you. And people are going to feel those effects. It's fractionally like a pain, you know? But, yeah, I think the hospitality mastermind is missing, and I think she knows which way we should go. I mean, and for me, I think the conversation has been... Everything that she just said has been an output from my investment into masterminds. Like those are all real. We have a new product line, service. Everything's built on scalable systems. And I'm not stressed out anymore about like how I'm going to grow my business. It's just about what is the amount of input that I have to put into it today to get the result I want 6 months from now.
No, I hear you, man. I think that's the pod.